If somebody who lived in the 1950s and was accustomed to that way of life were to hop into a time machine and fast forward and land in 2024, they would be extremely shocked because they would see all kinds of things they were not familiar with, like the advances in technology would blow their mind, the general culture, how people dress, the sound of what people call music today. Everything would just be totally different to them, and they would be in like a state of shock, not knowing how to respond to everything. Well, I think it'd be the same way if you or me, who are accustomed to today's way of life, were to jump into a time machine and end up 50 years from now. I think what we would see would absolutely horrify us, just because we wouldn't understand anything going on in that society. We'd probably end up cuddled up in a corner, in the fetal position, sucking our thumbs, terrified. But yet, everybody else in that society would be just be carrying on with their day like normal, and look at you like what's wrong with them? And the reason is that because all of the changes that happened to them happened over a period of time. So even a young person today who would be alive 50 years from now, that new society would not be a total shock to them because all of the changes that would happen between now and then would be gradual throughout their lives. Same thing with us. Uh, all the way things are today is kind of normal to us because it's been introduced into our life little by little. And I think you take any 50-year span in history, it would be the same way. It's that shock that comes with just that much of a change happening to you overnight. So things naturally happen little by little. And that's kind of the natural state of human civilization is constant change. So I see a lot of people today are really worried about the changes going on in the world. And I don't need to list them all off. You guys know what I'm talking about. All the things that people worry about today out there. And I hear it everywhere, whether it's here on YouTube or from family I talk to, or even strangers I run into in the grocery store are discussing their worry over what's going on. And I would venture to say that probably most of the people who are worried about the changes happening in the world would identify as conservative, because a conservative by definition is somebody who's trying to conserve a certain way of life. Well, that's the big problem with conservatism, is that you're trying to conserve a certain way of life within a human society whose natural state is constant change. So while everything wants to constantly change, you're trying to preserve things to always stay the same. You can see the issue there. Now, I think the only times I've seen throughout history is conservatism actually work is not on the level of countries or the world. It's always on very smaller scales. Think of examples like the Gypsies, Romas, the Amish. It's always smaller scale. And I think even a state scale is too big. Because, I mean, let's say you were to take all of the Amish out there and put them all into one location. Their population would still be under 500,000 people. And that's a smaller population than the least populated state in the entire U.S. So, you know, you look back at the founding of the country when there was the original 13 colonies and that, people did not identify as Americans at that time. If somebody was from Virginia, they identified first and foremost as a Virginian, and then only secondarily as a citizen of the greater United States. But as time went on, the empire builders realized that, people being tied to their local geographic area was not as much of a benefit to the empire. So they started indoctrinating people through the education system and through mass media to try to get people to be more patriotic, you know, identify less with their local village and identify more with the empire. Well, I have issues with that because when I look at 300-pound Shaquifa in downtown Baltimore with her 11 kids from all different fathers, and she's helping herself stealing off the shelves of Walmart. Do I have anything in common with her? No, not really. But yet, the empire builders tell me, no, 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 that is a fellow American, and you are supposed to care about your fellow Americans. Well, I can tell you right now that I don't. It's not my people, not my problem. So I think if you do want to conserve whatever way of life you believe in, you got to stop thinking on the large scale of countries and empires and shrink it down to a more human scale, which, like I said, even the state is too much. I mean, I'm not one to fly flags for political organizations. I just don't believe in that. But if I were to put up a flagpole here on my property, I would not be flying an American flag. I would be flying the state flag of Arkansas. But even that is really thinking too big, because you can't conserve a way of life with just that many masses, millions of people over that great of a geographic area. You have to think just in small terms of your village. It's sure it's the natural state of all of humanity for the world to constantly keep changing. But I think it's the state of individual people to rely on tribes, and within those tribes practice a more conservative nature, trying to conserve their customs and beliefs and ideas and things of that nature. So I guess that's the entire takeaway I'm trying to put with this video is if you're really concerned with all the things going on in the world and in your country, all you're really doing is putting yourself in an early grave with all that worry. Separate yourself from that. If me separating myself from the empire, I guess that would define me as a barbarian. Because you look, what did the Roman Empire call? What were barbarians? They weren't people that ran around in loincloths with, that were savages. They were just people who did not want to be part of the empire. That's all. That's all they were. They just rejected the empire. So the Romans considered them barbarians. So maybe it's up to us to become modern day barbarians. We have to live within society to some degree, but instead of thinking of a country of 350 million people, think of your immediate neighborhood as your country. Okay, for me, my 21 acres here is my country. Now, I may step out and go do trade with other countries because, there's things I need that I don't have here on the property, but I need to understand that I only have as much control over the world as what's here on my property. The moment I get in my van and go hit the road, I have no control over everything that goes on out there. When you're talking about a world of 8 billion people, what I want and what I think doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Those 8 billion people don't care what you think. So trying to change the world, trying to change a country or an empire is futile. Change yourself, change your immediate neighborhood, focus on those kinds of things. Instead of just worrying yourself, let's stop worrying about all those things going on, because whether we want them to happen or not, they're going to happen. It's going to be gradually over time, and humans are going to accept those new ways of life. But if you do not want to participate in those ways of life, then you need to make those changes and separate yourself from the empire. I know that I don't want to take part in a lot of things going on. I know at some point they're going to want to force everybody to get certain injections and use digital currencies and digital passports and all this stuff that I don't want to take part in. So I've come to the conclusion that I need to become self-sufficient and be able to handle myself so that when that time comes and I get kicked out of civilization because I won't participate in all those things, that I can take care of myself and my immediate family and loved ones. Maybe right now I'm just a tribe of one right here on the property. That may change one day. I might find a girlfriend that wants to live the simple life that I do with no grid ties. Maybe I might meet friends that believe like I do, and we might form our own little tribe. We have beliefs in a culture that we want to preserve, but it's always got to be done on a small scale like that for it to work.